I wanted to hop in real quick today. Today's the day after Thanksgiving, which is actually the day that I'm going to go celebrate Thanksgiving with my family because I was at work yesterday. But I wanted to drop in and talk about my Thanksgiving day at work. Did this last year and I had some interesting stories. This year was completely different than last year for a variety of reasons. One thing that was very different was this was the first time in years that I haven't packaged up some food to take to work for the homeless people. Normally, I package up these little to-go meal kits, and I put some pie, some stuffing, some stuff like that, and I smoke like a couple of turkeys, take that to work with me in a spare cooler, and I hand it out to homeless people at work. As well as I bake some pies and I give them to people at like gas stations and stuff like that. This year I did not do that. I didn't have the time. The Thanksgiving just jumped on me, jumped up on me, climbed up on me, sprung up on me. It came too soon this year. Also, I think in years prior, like definitely when I was on third shift, I could cook during the day, take the food to work at night. And then I think last year I had the day before Thanksgiving off. I think I had Tuesdays and Wednesdays off last year. I can't remember for sure, but this year I had to work right up to it. My wife and kids were out of town. I didn't have time to make any food, so I didn't take any food with me for homeless people, which is actually going to be a fairly significant part of the story today, because I actually spent my entire, well, 3/4 of my Thanksgiving this year surrounded by homeless people. And the reason for that was because on Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, we had a homicide that involved some homeless people. The victim was homeless, and the suspect in this homicide is also homeless. They solved the crime that day due to witness testimony, and they actually filed warrants on the suspect. I found out about the warrants by looking at the news. So when I got to work the next day, it's Thanksgiving morning, I told my buddies, like, you know what? I'm going to go talk to some homeless people and I'm going to go find this homicide suspect. One of kind of the reasons that this story has any teeth or any substance to it whatsoever is because the way I do my job and the way I interact with homeless people affords me the opportunity to, I have a good relationship with homeless people. Let's put it that way. They know who I am. They know how I treat them. And when they see me, they're not only are they not afraid to talk to me, but they actually approach me. They generally don't ask for anything. They just walk up to me and say, hey man, how are you doing? Like, how have you been? Like, how's your family? These people genuinely, they look up to me, because I've helped them out in the past. And they really want to have some form of relationship with people who can interact with them, understand what they're going through, and treat them the way they want to be treated. Because most of the people that these homeless people interact with, they're trying to get something from them. You know, they're begging for food from people or begging for money from people. They don't actually just interact as real people. And there's a level of trust that is there. So I went up to a spot where I know people who would know my suspect were hanging out, and I waited for him to show up. And it was kind of funny. I saw a couple of them walk by. They kind of glanced at me, didn't really approach me or anything. I saw them go into a gas station, and then they split up. So one thing about being a police officer talking to sources on the street is that your sources don't want the people around them to know that they're talking to the police. So when I saw them split up, actually one went in the gas station, one did not. I approached the one that was in the gas station kind of off by himself, and he saw me. He's like, hey Bob, how you doing today? And I talked to him. I said, hey, I need some help. He looked me right in the eye. He's like, what can I help you with? And I told him who I was looking for, and he asked for a picture, which I had on my phone, and his eyes lit up immediately. He's like, yeah, I know who that is. I know where he is. Meet me around the corner here in a minute. So I told him I understand where that spot was and offered to buy him anything that he wanted. He was eating a peanut butter sandwich. He's like, no, I got some food. Some guy handed me the sandwich a little bit ago, and he was getting a a slushie, which is kind of odd because it's kind of cool. It's almost wintertime. I offered to pay for the slushie, and he said that no, he was fine. And I said, listen, I will get anything that you want at the store. Let me buy you some food. And he said a pack of smokes. So I went up to the counter and I said, hey, whatever smokes he likes, get me a pack. And the clerk actually looked at me and said, hey, he's actually one of the good ones around here, which I know. That's why I have a relationship with him. So as I was buying him his smokes, his other friend came in, and he actually introduced me to his friend. So not only was he not afraid to be seen near me, but he wanted me to meet his other friend, this other homeless guy. And he goes, hey man, he goes, do you know who this is? So he introduced me to him, and then he said, yeah, he's looking for so-and-so. And then that guy, his eyes lit up, and he said he knew exactly where this guy was. So I had two homeless people that gave me the same information. It appeared to be credible. And also the clerk at the gas station kind of reiterated that same information. He's like, oh yeah, everybody knows him. He lives over here. So then I called some buddies, and we went and we started talking to homeless people. We went into these camps, and we didn't want them to know that we were looking for a homicide suspect, and we didn't want to name the suspect. We imagined he's already on the run, but we didn't want to tip him off if we could avoid it. So we went into these camps under the guise of, we're getting some calls that you guys are making too much of a mess out here. So we need to come out and make sure that this is addressed. And they're apologizing, which they might have been full of shit. They might not have been. But I then told them, I was like, I need everyone's name. I need to document who I've spoken to out here. That way, if we have to come back out, I might be forced to write you criminal charges. They all understood that. They basically lined up, gave me their names, information. I was able to get on the computer, verify them. They weren't the suspects. So then from there, I moved on to another homeless camp. I'm talking to probably 15 to 20 homeless people, interacting with them in their little camps where they're living. And it was like the one year that I did not bring food with me. And everybody that I talked to said, you guys gonna, and they would all say, oh, today's Thanksgiving, isn't it? And they're like, happy Thanksgiving, officer. And I'd talk to them about Thanksgiving, and I'd ask like, hey, where are you guys gonna go for a food hookup today? And none of them knew where they were gonna go, because all of the food hookup locations are closer to downtown, and where we were was not downtown. It was probably 3 miles away, which it's a long way to walk for a meal. When you can, for a special meal, because they can get food where they're at. They just can't go get like a Thanksgiving meal. So we had these conversations, and it was funny because I felt really bad. It's not my responsibility to feed these people, but how many times in years past have I been carrying food around and not been able to find people to give the food to? One year I gave like 5 meals to one person because they told me that they had friends that they lived with. And then this year, here I am in these camps. Everybody was very nice to me, very welcoming to me. They didn't question why I was there. They weren't suspicious of me being there. They talked about Thanksgiving. They said, I hope that you have a great Thanksgiving when you get home with your family. This, that, and the other thing. They were very talkative. It was honestly a very good experience. I really enjoyed going out and talking to those people yesterday. But it was the one year that I didn't bring any food with me, and that just kind of struck me kind of odd. To completely ruin the story, we did not find our suspect yesterday. Word travels fast, especially in the homeless community. When one person kills another person, everybody knows about it. This guy can basically just ghost. I don't know. We might find him. We might not find him. Somebody might turn him in. If they put a reward out for him, somebody might turn him in. So I don't know. But the other thing about yesterday that really struck me, and I told my wife about it when I got home, is of all the people that wished me a happy Thanksgiving yesterday, the only people who did it were homeless. I interacted with quite a few people yesterday. I stopped at gas stations. I had a handful of dispatch runs. Had some kids that broke their neighbor's window, and I had to get the parents, and it got handled civilly. We didn't have to charge anybody. But I dealt with quite a few people yesterday, and they all acted like it was just a normal day, or that they were so upset about whatever the problem was that they were dealing with, that they called me for, that they weren't interested in Thanksgiving whatsoever. But these homeless people, they were just out there, and I know that they're all drug addicts and they're all homeless because of their own personal poor choices. I I'm not fooled by any of this stuff, but it was kind of amazing to me, and it really did kind of strike me that the only people who wished me a happy Thanksgiving yesterday were the people who literally have nothing, and are barely living, barely getting by. A couple guys were living under a clear plastic tarp. They were sharing this clear plastic tarp laying on top of a concrete slab where a building used to be, and that was their little camp. I don't know if there's a real moral to that story or anything, but that was my day yesterday on Thanksgiving. So with that, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go enjoy my meal with my family over at my in-laws house. Hopefully everything turns out good. I'll talk to you guys later.